All right, today I'm here with Papa Joe, which is, you're always going to be Papa Joe to me now because that's how I was introduced to you. But for anyone else, what's your full name?
It's Joe Errante. Or
Joe
Joseph.
Errante.
Yeah, Joseph
But
Errante.
call you Papa Joe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Papa Joe.
yeah, that's what my street name is.
Papa Joe,
Yeah.
which I love. You served in the Airborne?
Yes.
What years?
Well, I went in at 17 and 74. And 18, 19, and 20, I was jumping out of airplanes with the 82nd Airborne. And so I went from 74 to 80, 6 years. I made sergeant at 20 years old.
Wow.
And staff sergeant at 23 years old.
Pretty awesome.
But I got out at 23 and had 6 years behind me, and I had made staff sergeant. All the command sergeant majors, all of my colonels said, "You're crazy. Half the battle's behind you.
You've already done it all now. You can just go rank up." Yeah,
and I wanted to do 30, but I had a parachute jump. It was my last jump. It was the whole battalion, 3,500 men. I was the colonel's radio operator. He had been to West Point, been to Nam twice. Now I'm in at 74. They all came back from Nam in 73. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I'm assigned to this airborne infantry unit, and I'm assigned to this colonel as the radio, teletype, Morse code, crypto operator, the only one out of 3,500 men. And because of him, a couple of years later, I made buck sergeant at 20 years old. So I was the youngest sergeant in the whole battalion as well. Now, let me sidestep here because this unit that I was assigned to 30 years before I went in 74. In 1944, on D-Day, my unit glided into Normandy, pulled over by another plane, stealth, released by a cable, no engines on these planes. They glided on the other side of the enemy at night, and thousands of them died because they had barricades all over, and they hit those barricades and died, crippled. But the ones that survived, and this term came from this, the term that we say, they pulled up their bootstraps and kicked ass from the rear. That was my unit.
Wow.
I wore the ribbons, I wore the medals, and the German general whose army they annihilated from the rear. And they were one of the reasons why all the other paratroopers and all the other services, the Marines, the British, everything, the Navy, the SEALs, everybody was on that beach at one time. And but shortly after that, the war had ended because the paratroopers jumped in, feet first.
Yeah.
These are the best of the best and the worst of the worst. And my dad was trained by the best of the best because he was in Korea with the 101st Airborne. And that man, he was so old school it isn't funny.
Yeah.
So I grew up listening to him tell all my brother's friends and some of my friends that were joining the military because they want to draft. He said, "Go airborne, go airborne, go airborne, go airborne," and so I guess he brainwashed me, and but I decided at 17 that enough was enough. I needed to leave the house because my dad wasn't leaving, so I left, and I needed to get away from him for a while, and I joined the Army. But on top of all that, I had a sergeant that was the communications sergeant, Camo. He had 3 up, 3 down, and he had gone to Nam with he went to Korea with the 101st Airborne. Went to Nam, and they deactivated, and they made the 82nd Airborne Division the only airborne division, and the 101st was air assault. So he went over to the 82nd, was a paratrooper for 30 years, went to Nam 5 times, was shot 3 times. Dude, there's a statue outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, called Iron Mike. I was trained by Iron Mike.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's crazy. That's crazy.
People don't get me sometimes.
Yeah.
I have to be self-contained because I didn't go to war, but I was trained by the
guys
best,
that
the
were
best of the best or the worst of the worst. West Point Colonel, Iron Mike.
Those guys are
shot.
They're real.
He was
real
shot
superheroes.
3 times. Went to Nam 5 times. He walked like this. He was a Native American, full-blooded Lumbee Indian from North Carolina, and anyway, so what said all that to say that my career in the military was very interesting, but I didn't go to war, so I'm a non-combat Vietnam veteran. My brother went to Vietnam for 2 years, 68 to 70. He was a helicopter mechanic. He also went to a high school. We were talking about high school before we went live. He went to a high school in Queens, New York called the Aviation High School, 4 years. He would come home. We bunked together in the same room, and we lived in Brooklyn at the time. So he'd get on a train, take a bus, 4 years, every day, high school. He'd come back with riveted wings, engines, and he'd hang them on the ceiling. Our room was like a museum. And then on his 18th birthday, he joined the Army in 68 to go to the Army, and they sent him to Nam. I didn't see him for 2 years. He was repairing shot-up helicopters that were shot up, and he'd put them all back together, rivet them all back together, and the pilots would go and get the troops. And one time he welded a shaft, a rotary shaft, together, and the pilot refused to get in that chopper. And their colonel got in it, took it up, took it down. He said, "You go out there and get those men, or else you're going to get demoted." And my brother got a letter, it came in the mail. And I remember reading it when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And so my brother came back, but he didn't come back.
Yeah.
He's been through 3 wives, 8 kids. None of them have anything to do with him. For a while, everything was smoke this, drink that, F this, F that. And now he's 74 years old, living in a veterans foster home. He has 1 room. And he's, I just now got him since 1970. To go get a VA checkup a year ago. And now he's got every 6 months a checkup. And I called the DAV, Disabled American Veterans in New York and in Long Island. And I spoke to a guy who, pretty crazy. His name is Jesse James.
Yeah.
And I said, "Jesse, I'm calling you from Missouri." He goes, "Oh, that's pretty funny." And so I said, "My brother needs someone to go and help him get his benefits." And so Jesse sent my brother a packet so he can, look it over, and Jesse's going to go visit him and probably they already done it by now. This is recent. He said, "I'll take care of your brother." So I'm a lifetime member of the DAV here in Springfield, Chapter 11. And I have a chaplain friend. He's the chaplain of the DAV here in Springfield. His name is Abe Holland Clark. He's full-blooded Cherokee. He's black. He's dark. But he's my best friend. And Abe, about 5 years ago, and I sat in the first meeting of the American Indian Center of Springfield. There was 6 of us. I was one of the guys. No one knew me but Abe, but I became friends with all of them because I've been involved with the American Indian Center of Springfield for 5 years now. And I'm the gardener, one of the gardeners.
Awesome.
I'm one of the gardeners. That's Papa Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
They call me Papa Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
But the point is this: my garden leader partner, she's a grandma. She's full-blooded Comanche. She's from Springfield, and we've been working the garden for over 4 years now. And we grow Three Sister seeds. We put our own seed pack in the library. They were giving them out with our logo.
Yeah, I know about that stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, and
That's
so
really
we
cool.
had tobacco, sweetgrass, sage. I have my own perennial garden, and I took my sage and put it in the American Indian garden, and now it's growing.
That's awesome.
They do powwows. They haven't done powwows in like 15, 13 years. And they just did a powwow in Marshfield Fairgrounds, and last month, for the 3rd year in a row, they did powwows in the Bass Pro parking lot.
That's cool.
There are vendors.
Yeah.
The year before this year, they brought in all the programs or organizations that have anything to do with nature into the parking lot. They brought in the Lewis and Clark Foundation replica and all the people with their tents and all the artifacts set up in the Bass Pro parking lot, dude. And they're doing powwows every hour in the hour. So I'm hanging out with Native Americans. I'm in the garden on Broadway down by the Drew Lewis Foundation. And so that's what I've been doing for 5 years. I do street ministry. I am a pastor. I have a pastor's degree. I learned a lot of hard knocks. From street, living on the streets of Brooklyn. And so and God's got a sense of humor, and I say we're it. But the point is this: is sometimes life shifts. You could be this guy one year, and then all of a sudden you have an epiphany, and you're like, oh my gosh. I say to guys, I have these gold nuggets, and one of which is we got to stop wasting time. And I tell the street guys, the veterans on the street, because they got depression, they got PTSD, they got trauma. I call it a trauma trap. And so I deal with them, and I said, listen, you've been doing bottle study all your life. God's wanting to use you. Now it's time to grow up and let me teach you Bible study. And even if it's one verse. In fact, it's one verse at a time. I had a guy on the phone yesterday. I said, listen, he's all excited. He's got a nice family, got a nice farm in Ozark. He just planted a half acre of strawberries for the fall. And so I've been discipling him for a couple weeks now. And I said, listen, just take one. I want you to read one verse, just one verse. And it's Psalms 1:1. And just read that verse and don't go anywhere else. He goes, I might read a few more verses. But the point is this. You can only do so much with what you have, okay? I'm thankful that I'm alive, and here's why. So this airborne unit that I was assigned to, the German general whose army they annihilated in World War II, called them devils in baggy pants. And when I was a paratrooper, we had PT and physical training in the morning. We'd run against all the other companies and see who can sing cadence the loudest.
Yeah.
I mean, right there, Fort Bragg. And so we had T-shirts. Some of them had skulls on them, and some said blood and guts, and ours said devils in baggy pants. And I'm like, what the heck? Why are we called devils in baggy pants? Well, then I met a fellow over at the Drew Lewis Foundation one day. His name is Eric Hadley. And Eric has a company called Gotcha 6 Coffee.
I know Eric. Yeah.
Gotcha 6 Coffee.
I know him.
Okay, he's the one that recommended me to you. And so Eric Hadley said, hey, man, he goes, I'd like to do we got to talking. He said, I need to do a podcast. So I'm on Eric's podcast, Papa Joe.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and that was like 2 4th of Julys ago, about a year and a half ago. So anyway, Gotcha 6 Coffee. And so... where was I going? Oh, so Eric, basically, I told the story. I did research on the 82nd Airborne because I didn't know a whole lot other than what I knew. So I started doing research, and I found out that Sergeant York was in the World War I. Okay, he's known for taking a whole German army alive with one machine gun by himself. And that episode helped end the war, okay? And likewise with my unit, they parachuted all over, and then they glided in with gliders. These are wooden planes, dude, with no engines and no night vision, no nothing. They're going in. All right, so now the men on the back of these planes are not paratroopers. They're infantry. Sergeant York was with the 82nd Infantry, and the men on the back of the planes were 82nd Infantrymen, glided into Normandy. Now, prior to the 82nd Infantry going into World War II, that unit was 82nd Infantry, and it was like before World War I. So they went to World War I, but before they went into World War I, the government decided these were all Southern guys, recruited, Southern, and they decided to open it up and recruit from every state. So it was 48 states. So they called it and gave them a patch, a red and white patch called 82nd Infantry, all American. All American.
Yeah.
Right? So now this is in World War I. So the all American went to World War I, kicked ass. Sergeant York was part of the 82nd Infantry. Actually, he's there. I went to his farm. It's a museum. Before I even knew what I'm telling you, I went there because I admired Sergeant York.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go and get, and see. And anyway, so now I'm studying for the podcast for Gotcha 6, and I put the piece together. All right, wow, this is where Sergeant York, was fighting for. And then in World War II in 42. They decided to take those infantry guys, take them over to England, and train them how to glide.
Yeah.
How to glide. Yeah. And then they had paratroopers as well, British paratroopers, the 509th Parachute Regiment. Oh, by the way, let me divert for a minute. And so Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks did a series called Band of Brothers.
Yeah, great show.
Band of Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm getting fired up.
Yeah, great
All
show.
right. All right. So the major that they interviewed, Dick Winters, he gave them all the input what they needed for that, and then Major Winters decided to write his own book. And I'm telling you, vets, you need to get this book. It's called Beyond Band of Brothers. Beyond Band of Brothers. Dude, I bought 20 of them and gave them out and to military people. And I think everyone should read it.
Okay.
That's in the military. Beyond Band of Brothers.
I'll definitely check it out.
Unbelievable.
You ever read Endurance?
No.
About the Shackleton?
No.
Supposedly they always, for a long time in the Navy,
Go ahead.
they would make recruits read Endurance. It's the Shackleton expedition from the early 1900s where they tried to go to South Antarctica and then got
of that.
winterized,
Yes.
and then but everything failed with the exception of one thing, and that he didn't lose anyone. Everyone survived it. And what he shows in that story, which is told by his first mate, is that even in failure, as long as that happens, you still succeed. And what his leadership decisions were, because the expedition before that, he was within, I want to say, 50 miles from his point, but he knew that if he went that far and came back, he'd lose probably half of his crew. He wasn't willing to do that, and he went back home. Got a new one, comes back, and then the same. I mean, it's endurance.
I read that about 2 weeks ago. It's funny you said that portion.
Incredible story.
Yeah,
Incredible story.
and that's
Anyway,
that's endurance. No, that's good. That's insight and discernment. And so,
But I'll check out Beyond Band of Brothers for sure.
yeah. So now, so that was why I did the research, because Eric Hadley was doing a podcast for me, and I'm. There was a few things I add in. I talk about my Native American experience with the American Indian Center, and I've been influenced by Iron Mike, Native American.
Yeah.
Now I have a chaplain friend right here in Springfield where they have a meeting every week for DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and so during COVID or before COVID, 2019, I decided to go to Florida to get away for the winter. I hate the winters. And the reason why I hate the winters is I have a spinal injury. The unit I was assigned to, we had a maneuver, ironically, jumped in Florida. It was a night jump. It was a full moon. And the colonel's always the first guy in the first plane. I'm his radio operator, carrying the radio. And I'm the first guy in the first plane. But my sight of my peripheral was I'm over the road, and it's all sand, and it's a full moon, and it's a low jump, and so I could see the trees below us and the road in front of us. He can't see that because he's on the other side. And so we're coming in 13 planes, 3,582nd Airborne. I was assigned to the 3rd of 325 Airborne Infantry. That was the unit that glided into Normandy. And so anyway, and I'm thinking, man, that's strange. The road's right there. We're on the trees, and all of us, and we're waiting, by the way, for a little red light to turn green, going at 300, 400 miles an hour. And everybody's behind me, and only the guys standing in the door are waiting for the green light to jump, and everybody follows. So at that point, I look down the road and up the road, and there's a field plowed on the other side of the road. And I'm thinking, wow, this is strange, because the engineers plowed that. That was their job. And when we got to the edge of that drop zone, they dropped us in the trees. And I'm thinking, all right, this is crazy. So we went on a 30-day maneuver against the 24th Infantry in the woods, and it rained 15 days nonstop. Back then, we didn't take a bath or a shower. We used our helmet, a steel pot, and so we didn't see a shower or bath, not a one, for 30 days.
Yeah.
And we were the aggressors, and our recon Rangers broke the perimeter and went into the colonel of the 24th Infantry, went and got his helmet and his gun, his 45, and that ended the deal. And then we went home happy campers. Yeah. But now we're going back home, and it was fine for about an hour. But then there was a hurricane off the coast of North Carolina, and we're going into it because we were at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we're going into it. And all of a sudden, for an hour, the planes were rocking. rock. We couldn't sit down. We're like screaming, open the doors, let us out, we'll jump, we'll walk home. You know, it's like whatever. And no, we had to wait till we got over the drop zone. It's called Sicily Drop Zone. And they opened the doors and we went out. 5 of my buddies died as soon as they hit the ground.
Because of wind?
80 mile plus an hour winds. And I hit the ground so hard, Mike, that I believe I either died or got unconscious, because when I came out of whatever that was, I thought, whoa, that was strange. And then all of a sudden I'm going backwards like a paper doll, 80 miles an hour, but I felt this pain in my spine that I never had before. I'm like, what the heck? They didn't train us for this. So I pulled my quick disconnect, laid there for what seemed like forever. And the medics found, my friends were medics, and found 5 bodies and me on the drop zone. They wanted me to get out of the Army, but my wife just got pregnant. I just got married, and my wife got pregnant, and I said, no, I didn't get in to get out. So they sent me to Germany for 2 years. But anyway, so I've been, faithful at serving. It's been 6 years active, and my father, my brother, me, and I've been influenced, like I said.
Tell. Well, thank you so much.
I walk in that.
Yeah, I can tell. You walk in and you just walk the walk and talk the talk. And I appreciate you for taking your time with me today, and I appreciate you for your service in and outside, because you continue to serve even after the military. So thank you.
Amen. Can I tell you a little story?
Sure.
So years ago, your station, you in fact, had a competition on the radio. It was Christmas, I think, 2010, maybe 2009, 2010. Anyway, where people had to submit a Christmas story, and I heard you on the radio talking about it, and it was like, so I emailed and said, when's it, and I had one day to write a story, and it was that night I wrote the story, I emailed it to you, and it was submitted. And so I had interesting. So I get a call from you on when we first had cell phones, and like, is this Joe Errante? Yeah. And well, it was a hard decision. Well, we selected your story, and the story was this. On a maneuver, it wasn't the maneuver Florida, but on another maneuver, we spent 30 days and we had camouflage fatigues, camouflage all over our face, and it was just before Christmas. And back in 76 or something like that, 75. Yeah, it was a 75. And I was 13 hours away from my family in New York, Long Island. And I had just gone out of maneuver, and it was Friday, and I think Christmas Eve was like the next night. So I wanted to go visit. I didn't even take a shower, didn't even take my camouflage off my face. I just got in my car. I had a 62 Impala Super Sport. And I've taken a 13-hour drive, made it into 9 hours. I'm doing 120 with that Super Sport all the way on I-95. And so I get through New York City, through Queens, and I'm in Long Island now, and I'm about 5 blocks from my house. And I get pulled over by a local cop, and he's 18 and I'm 18, and it's snowing. It had just snowed. I'm doing 90 on a 30, and it's really exclusive town. And so he pulls me over, and I tell him, man, listen, I'm in camouflage, dude. My face is all camouflaged, and so he goes, let me see your license. I left my wallet in the wall locker in the barracks. I forgot my wallet. And I'm doing 90, 120. And so I told him, I said, listen, man, it's like 15 minutes to midnight on New Year's, Christmas Eve. I said, I'm trying to get to my house. They don't know I'm coming, and I want to just get there before they start opening gifts. And he goes, all right, man, have a good time. He's like a homie, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm floored out. Man, I just peeled out. And I pulled in the driveway. He goes by, it's snowing, I wave, and he waves. I go in the back door, and I come in the house. Everybody's in the front room, and the kitchen's dark, the living room's dark, and everybody's in the front room, and and they're having a good old time. And I'm standing there in the dark. I mean, just standing there, still. And my mother goes, I wish my son Joe was here. And as soon as she said that, I stepped into the light,
Yeah.
and she freaked out. They all freaked out. And I wrote that story.
I remember your name now. Like I knew that name from somewhere. I was almost scared that we'd had this lunch before, but I keep tabs on everything, so I always check. 'Cause I'm like, man, I know that name. That's crazy. What did you win? I don't even remember what we gave away.
That's good. I'm glad you asked. Cornerstone Jewelry.
Oh my God! Yeah, yes.
$1,000.
Yes, I remember
now listen.
that.
So,
I remember that now.
So my
Golly.
wife of 30 years, my childhood sweetheart, had passed away in '07 of breast cancer, stage 3. In fact, when Mary Beth O'Reilly started the Breast Cancer Foundation of the Ozarks in her house, before she had an office or an office number, my wife and I were on the phone with her every day. Mary Beth, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I mean, she invited us to her Thanksgiving dinners, and we hung out. My wife and her became friends. They did these fundraisers at the Holiday Inn. My wife was actively involved with that. One of her first clients. And so my wife eventually passed away. She also taught at the Christian schools of Springfield, junior high, senior high, boys and girls, for 10 years, 7 of which she had stage 3. And then she left in '06. The night of the graduation, and then she passed away in '07, few weeks after the '07 storm. Right. So 2 years later, I decided to, date, and I met this gal whose husband died. Like, my wife died on May 3rd. 3 months later, her husband died on July 2nd, the same year. He had cancer for 10 years, and they were married 30 years. His name was Joe.
Yeah, wow.
And we connected. Her birthday was on December 21st. Mine's on December 22nd.
I'm December 20th.
And
21st?
So
You said 21st?
hers is the 21st. Mine's the 22nd. Yeah. So you call while we're hanging out together. Me and she lived in Excelsior Springs, and we're hanging out. You call, and I put you on the speaker, and she heard this. You won $1,000 gift certificate.
Yeah.
And so I went and bought jewelry, and I planned an engagement for 8 months in a cave in Arkansas. I planned this. There's a big cave in Arkansas. You drive a truck in there. Native Americans lived in there, Osage, and it's a cabin and everything. So we went out there. I put this diamond ring in a white rock with cotton, and I wrote it with a Sharpie, "Will you marry me?" And I had this in my Army uniform, and I'm going out. We're looking for our arrowheads and all, and just foraging. And so we get in the cave, and I'm thinking, man, it's getting dark. I got to propose to her. We got to hike back. It's like miles to the cabin. And so I put this, I'm looking with a flashlight. She's looking for arrowheads on the ground. We're all dirty because we have been hiking all day. And so she looks, I said, hey, look, her name is Connie. I said, Connie, look at this. I found an arrowhead. But it wasn't an arrowhead. It was the little rock I put on, it was a ledge. Yeah. Only ledge in the whole cave. And it was right there next to me. I said, look, and I put the flashlight on it. And it glittered in a cave. And she cried, and she read it. She goes, "Yes, I will." So
I'm glad I got to hear that.
So yeah, you needed to hear this,
That's
and
awesome.
this is like it meant to be.
That's a really good deal.
So I bought her earrings and necklace and everything, and that's where that $1,000
Oh
went.
yeah. Well, I'm glad it went to you. That's awesome. And again, thank you so much for your service. Appreciate you very much.
You know what we say in the Army? Paratroopers never die; they just fade away. Get it?